Hello students, welcome to this session of Toppr where we are decoding the CBSE Class 10 Social Science board paper. I know you students have to wait a little, but I am really sorry and apologies. There were some technical difficulties that we could do, and now we are here and there to solve all your queries. So first of all, let's begin with the fact that how was the exam? Well, what do you think? The first question that comes to our mind is easy or difficult or maybe average. Well, the opinion differs. But what we could say, the question paper was easy. Our team members did talk to students and we realized that paper as compared to 2016, it was also easy, but 17 is also easy. So you can draw a comparison says that both these years the paper was relatively easy as you compared them to the previous year's papers. Now students, when we talk about that, the first thing that I want to ask you is, how do we start it? Let's start with the 5 marks question if you feel comfortable, or let's do with the 1 mark question so that it's easy for you to find an answer that if you did the right 1 mark question or not. So let's begin with an analogy. Also, before I say about what is the right answer, I will also give in the answering process that which chapter this has come from and what were our predictions. We will discuss the same thing, right? So we know that how far we as Toppr team, social science team, has actually helped you in your exam. The first question, students, is from history, and that is that why were big European powers, they met in Berlin in 1885. Now the basic answer, it's a 1 marker question, students. So I told you for 1 marker, not many words, 30 words are required. So the reason is that they want to decide on the division of the colony Africa. Africa was rich in natural resources. Important powers like France, England, Germany were after Africa to actually divide it. So they in Berlin in 1885 gathered to decide the division of Africa. That is all you have to write. If you have written something similar to it, little on colonization or the resources of Africa, this is also correct and you will get full marks in that. Now student, let's talk about the second question. Again from history, you will see in this chapter or in this paper, not many questions have come from history and geography. Yes, very two important fields. Second question is, why were merchants from town in Europe began to move countryside in 17th and 18th century? Well student, it's simply NCERT question. I asked you in the session we were doing that do not read anything beyond NCERT. 1 mark question which says that the artisans and peasants were given money by whom? By the money lenders or the merchants to work in the countryside. Now why countryside? Because in the main city certain guilds were holding important possession. These guilds were important trading community. They were not allowing artisan and peasants to work, so the merchants gave peasants some money to produce weaving, spinning things in the countryside. If they produce those goods can be sold to international market by the merchants. So that's why the peasants and artisans also along the merchants were moving to the countryside. Now again 1 mark question, if you have written these 30 words or something related to peasants, artisans and the merchant aim of asking the peasants and artisans to go to the countryside, I think this will solve the purpose and you will get full marks. Even if you have mentioned something of artisans and peasants and their activity, you can fetch at least 3/4 of the marks. So that's sorted. Now let's talk about our next question. Why did Charles Booth, a Liverpool ship owner, conduct the first social survey of low-skilled workers in East End of London? Now students, that was the time when many surveys were happening. The answer to this question is, he wanted to know that how many London people at that time were suffering from poverty. There were millions of people who were living a life of below poverty line. They were having very less life expectancy. Poor people were having life expectancy of say 29 years. Middle class and high gentry people were having life expectancy of 55 years. So you could have said in your answer that the primary reason of doing that was to know the state of poverty in London and how the London people of poor people were living in the city. That would have given you 1 marks. Now student, the second part. Why did Roman Catholic Church impose control over publishers and booksellers? That was the time, students, when bookselling and publishing had actually begun. And why were they doing that? The simple reason is they did not wanted lot of children to read their books, because children might just wanted to get carried away. They wanted the episodes of Christianity not to be interpreted in a wrong way. So the religion should be interpreted in the right way, not in any wrong sensitive way. That is why they were controlling the publishers. They were also controlling because if people will get more knowledge, they will rebel. So if you have somehow written any of these 2 points, you get 1 marks. So don't worry about it. Now, the or question, if some of the students have attempted, why do novels use vernacular? Now, this is a very easy question, students, right? Even if you don't know the exact answer, the key is you can write something related to vernacular. Now, what is vernacular, students? It is the mother language, the mother tongue that you use, the language you are comfortable with. So, what do you think was the use of vernacular? Students, the use of vernacular is it gets people connected to each other, 1 point. It draws people closer to each other. It spread lot of knowledge at the same times and connects people. So it creates awareness also. So these 2-3 points, if you have written in a liner or 2-liner, this would give you marks. You could have supported your answer with an example. Like in Hindi, you have Godan, famous novel at that point in time. So an example again would have been good. If you have not written, not to worry at all, students, do not worry. You will get 1 marks for writing what I said, the importance of vernacular. Now let's turn to the third questions. Don't you think that is pretty simple these questions were? Like if you have studied and noticed what I told you in my pre-session, most of the questions you could easily answer. Think. Now concentrate as I tell you the third question. Classify resources on the basis of origin. Now student, origin is, I told you in the pre-session, if you remember, that do the resources part. There are different ways the resources are getting divided. You should know it all. I told you. So one of this question has come in 1-liner. So a prediction also holds true. Now, basis of origin is abiotic and biotic. Now, biotic are the ones who are living resources. It's very basic, like plants, animals, crops, etc. Abiotic are the non-living ones, like the environment, water, air, etc. That is all you have to write, nothing else. Other than that, this is the third question. Now, let's talk something about the fourth question also. What is the fourth question that we want to answer? As a challenge is not just any problem, but an opportunity for progress. Now, what does it mean? How is it an opportunity for progress? When we say that how a democracy works, students, you just have to write this in a line. So what you have to understand is that democracy, if it is there, it gives you lot of opportunities to overcome that challenge. For example, if there is conflict happening between, let's say, Muslims and Hindus, just an example in India. So if the government tries to accommodate, they can overcome the challenge. So you can write, you could have written that yes, having democracy can actually provide you an opportunity to overcome the challenge of problems in your country by accommodating, by making people understand, creating awareness, by deepening the democracy, establishing elections, election commission, having media groups, civil society, etc. so that people can have more opinion. Right, students? So this is one thing. Now, when we go to the next question, state any 2 goals of development other than income. Now, some of you might just find this question little tricky, honestly, right? So, what is that? It is not at all tricky, because here, students, what we are referring is only 2 things other than income. When we think about development, first thing comes to mind is growth. That is there. Income, money is there. Health and education, recreation are the other points you could have mentioned. If you have done this or any other point, you get 1 out of 1. Now, let's also talk about the other question, which is when we produce goods by exploiting natural resources, in which category of economic sector such activities come? Now, this is primary sector. We are exploiting the natural resources, right? So this is how it is. Other than that, give any two examples of informal sectors of credit. Now students, in this what is happening is they have given two examples, right, of informal sector, and they have divided the marks, if you can see. Half and half. If you have done one right, you get half. If you have done two, so the answer is money lenders and tradesmen. You know how zamindari system was very pertinent at that point in time. So what was happening? They were charging lot of money to the peasants so that they can buy things for them, and they will charge higher tax for that. So answer in simple, just two words, money lenders as well as traders. Now, if you have done this, you have got full marks. Something nearby to it, you have again got full marks. Let's turn to the next question that we have. Now, these are the 3 marks beginning. More scope to write and more scope to gain. Now, let me just clear this out for you that you can also get 3 out of 3 and 5 out of 5. It is quite a possibility, just like mathematics, right? So, if you have done it good, be sure that you will get full marks. Now, the question is that describe the impact of rinderpest on people's livelihood and local economy in Africa. Now student, what was happening? Africa has been asked twice in the paper. I told you 4 marker or a 3 marker can easily come. Now what happened is, rinderpest was a disease of cattle plant, right? Cattle, when the cattle get disease. Most of the people in Africa, you will be amazed to know, were very rich at some point in time because they were having great land, great livestock, so they were not worried about anything else, right? Now what happened? When these colonial powers, like Europe colonial powers, entered Africa, this disease started. This disease actually killed a lot of the cattle that the Africans were having, leading to death of cattle, because of which the people, the native of Africa, started becoming very poor. And they had never in their life, Africans did any kind of wage labor. But now the main livelihood they had of cattle was taken away or was diseased. So they started doing wage labor and became slaves for European under forced compulsion. So this is what you have to write in 3 marks. If you have written something around this related to the disease, explaining the disease, also related something to what the Europeans did to Africans, you have solved the purpose. You can score 3 out of 3. Now, or question, if some of you have given the or answer. Describe any 3 major problems faced by Indian cotton weavers in 19th century. Now, this is a question from our geography also. Now, what actually happened, student? Indian cotton weavers were having problem, you know. If you study history or geography, this is a basic question that comes, which you'll understand. It is basically, this question has been asked pertinently from geography, though I must tell you, industries. Okay. So now what is happening here? The weavers started getting poor because their textile industry was getting slow. Why? Raw materials Britishers were taking from India, making them finished products in their machines or industries in England and selling those products back to India at a very cheaper price. So the 3 repercussions were cheap goods available in India. So why will people buy expensive goods of India, the handicrafts goods which are expensive? Cheaper goods of Britishers were getting collected. Second, less or decline of textile industry because more of Britisher goods were coming. So Indian textile industry was becoming poorer. And high tax also. Lot of higher tax was charged not just by Britishers but also by the merchants, leading to poverty of weavers. Right? So any of these 3 points you could have written to get good marks. Now, the next in or is, describe any 3 steps taken up to clean up London during 19th century. Students, whenever such question comes, draw an image in your mind. You must have done, what was the state of London that time? People were flocking because of industries were getting developed, right? But what was the situation? People were living in a very pitiable situation. Hence, by this question, 3 steps you would have taken. London को क्लीन करने के लिए वो स्टेप्स क्या लिए गए थे? अब बेसिक चीज़ ये है स्टूडेंट्स, एक पॉइंट आप लिख सकते थे कि रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कराया गया, बहुत सारे गार्डन बेल्स लाए गए. एबेनेजर करके जो पर्सन थे उन्होंने बहुत सारे गार्डन बेल्स लाए और प्रिंसिपली ब्यूटीफुल बनाया उस सिटी को. देन लॉट ऑफ अपार्टमेंट गॉट कंस्ट्रक्टेड, राइट? इट वॉज मेड एज अ गार्डन सिटी, ब्यूटीफुल गार्डन्स, प्रॉपर प्लानिंग वॉज डन. न्यू मीन्स ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्टेशन और कम्युनिकेशन भी स्टार्ट कर दिए, जैसे कि अंडरग्राउंड रेलवे. और एक और पॉइंट है, अगर आपने वो लिखा है, एंड किया क्रिमिनलाइजेशन. बहुत क्रिमिनलाइजेशन हो गया था क्योंकि लोग कहीं से भी आ रहे थे, फ्लॉक कर रहे थे वहाँ पे. तो strong punishments थे people who do crime. So if 4-5 points I told you, if you have written any of these 3-4 points, you will get full marks. Okay. Now, other than this, students, the next question is the print revolution. Let's talk about this one. The print revolution has transformed the lives of people, changing their relationship to information. Students, honestly speaking, it's a very, very general question. Even if you would have not touched the chapter of print revolution, which I told you to do it very superficially because question is expected but not sure. I informed you that, right? And the same thing happened. A very average or a very general question, you can say, has come, which you could have attempted without knowing much about the detailing of chapter. Now you could have written in this answer, yes, print technology has indeed improved the life of people. Why? Hand, पहले लोग हाथ से लिखते थे, अब बुक्स प्रिंट हो गई, मैकेनिकल मीन्स आ गए, प्रिंटिंग मीन्स आ गए. तो उससे क्या हुआ स्टूडेंट? पहला चीज, लॉट्स ऑफ बुक्स स्टार्टेड गेटिंग अवेलेबल. पहली चीज, सो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग किताब पढ़ने लगे. दूसरी चीज़, अवेयरनेस क्रिएट हो गई. तीसरा, रीडिंग हैबिट डेवलप हो गई. लोगों की ओपिनियंस बदलने लगी, नॉलेज का पर्सपेक्टिव बदलने लगा, लाइब्रेरीज डेवलप हो गई एंड मोर कंटेंट जो था वो अप्रोचेबल हो गया. लोग अपने ओपिनियंस देने लगे. सो ये 4-5 पॉइंट हैं, ये आप लिख सकते थे इनमें से कोई भी 3 जो कि प्रिंट टेक्नोलॉजी के कारण हुआ है. अ वेरी जनरल क्वेश्चन. अगर इसके आसपास भी आपने कुछ लिखा है, बिलीव मी, यू कैन स्कोर इजीली 2.5 to 3-4 मार्क्स. ओके. नाउ आफ्टर दिस, और अगर आपने और क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट किया है तो ये कहता है स्टूडेंट्स कि आप डिस्टिंग्विश कीजिए थीम्स. ये थोड़ी पिक्यूलर थीम्स हैं. अगर प्राइड एंड प्रेजुडिस आपने मूवी भी देखा होगा, ठीक है, तो आप इजीली एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं कि आप क्या लिखने वाले हैं. प्राइड एंड प्रेजुडिस एक था और जेन आए, इनके बीच में आपको बताना है कि क्या डिफरेंस थे इन दोनों में. तो अगर हम थीम्स देखें तो प्राइड एंड प्रेजुडिस में क्या दिखाया गया स्टूडेंट? एक ऐसा विमेन पर्सपेक्टिव दिखाया गया है जिसमें बोला गया है दैट द विमेन आर someone who actually are there because they want to get married to, let's say, a propertied, good-looking man, और men को भी यही चाहिए कि a good wife. So very, I would say, very rigid perspective दिखाया गया है, ठीक है. और जेन आयरे on top of it पूरा opposite है. वो कैसे? उसमें जो women protagonist है उसको दिखाया गया है as a small girl. उसको दिखाया गया है, जूनियर जेन जो है, कि वो रिबेल करती है, अपनी आंट को आंट नहीं कहती है, वो अटेंशन चाहती है, वो इंटरैक्टिव है, वो अग्रेसिव भी हो जाती है, अपनी आंट को कहती है दैट यू आर बैड, राइट. तो ये सारे टर्म्स आप यूज़ कर सकते थे दिखाने के लिए कि यहाँ दोनों विमेन की स्थिति अलग है. प्राइड एंड प्रेजुडिस में थोड़ी सबमिसिव है, गोइंग फॉर लग्जरी है. ऑन द अदर हैंड जो जेन आए हैं उसके अंदर विमेन इज जस्ट नथिंग बट सबमिसिव. वो बिल्कुल सबमिसिव नहीं है, वो अग्रेसिव है. तो ये दोनों ऑपोजिट थीम है स्टूडेंट्स. अगर आपने थोड़ा बहुत इसके अराउंड लिखा है, यू कैन स्कोर ऑलमोस्ट 2, 3, 4 और 3 मार्क्स. इट्स अ स्कोरेबल क्वेश्चन. नाउ मैंने आपको बताया था जब हम लास्ट टाइम सेशन कर रहे थे, इफ यू रिमेंबर, दैट इस तरीके से इंडिविजुअल नॉवल क्वेश्चंस आ सकता है 3 नंबर में, और जो आया भी. तो ये हमारा प्रेडिक्शन काफ़ी सही रहा. उसके बाद हम नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पे चलते हैं स्टूडेंट्स. 3 नंबर का है, हाउ हैज़ द एवर इंक्रीजिंग नंबर ऑफ इंडस्ट्रीज इन इंडिया made worse position by exerting pressure on existing freshwater resources, right? So what is happening is position कैसे improve हो रही है. यहाँ बोले कि इंडस्ट्रीज जो है इंडिया में वो कैसे अपने प्रॉब्लम्स को सॉल्व करना चाहिए उनको, क्योंकि वो कैसा पानी यूज़ कर रहे हैं, तो पानी पे उसका क्या इफेक्ट होता है. इन शॉर्ट इसको हम 3 नंबर में समझाएंगे. सो व्हाट इज द पॉइंट? ओके, द पॉइंट रिमेन्स, you know, what do industries do? If you have seen nearby, you could have easily answered this question without doing rectification with your book. The simple thing is, the heavy industries get developed. Sometimes they develop in residential places. What do? First, they use the fresh water. Second, that leads to mismanagement of water. Third, it leads to drying up of water. Fourth, it also creates pollution because the heavy industries have no proper means of disposal of waste, creating pollution. And fifth, students, when the pollution is created, it seeps the groundwater levels, also polluting the groundwater. Okay, so these 5 points are clear. Now, just to remind you students, in the pre-session I told you one question will definitely come on water because there was water crisis which was happening in South Africa. And see, one connected question has already come. So, our predictions go right once again. Now students, let's turn to another 3-liner. So you can easily earn in these questions. You can easily score 2.5, 3 marks. Absolutely. The next question is, dense and efficient network of transport is a prerequisite for local and national development. You just have to analyze. A very simple geography question. Again, this question is from Lifeline of Economy. So basic transportation question. Now, what do you think? You have studied in most of the classes, 7th, 8th, 9th. First thing, what does transport do? Think. It connects people. So you could have easily written, it connects people. It brings efficiency. It leads to easy delivery of goods. It protects the perishable goods because there is quick delivery. Okay. So and it's also connect people. In times of emergency, quick transport is the best way. So these 3-4 points, if you would have written, that would have solved your purpose for 3 marks. Nothing more is required. And it's a very general question. Even if you have written something around, you will get marks. I told you a 3 marks question can come on railways or roadways, and it has come. So again, it goes true. Now, let's turn to the 12th one. Describe any 3 provinces of amendment, okay students, made in Indian Constitution in 1992 for making the 3-tier government more effective. Now 3 they have specified. I told you, remember in pre-session, when they say 3, write 3, okay. Now what happens in 3-tier government, what changes has happened? Yes, the first prominent change has happened is the development of election. Every 5 years you have to do election at lower levels of democracy, grassroots level of democracy. So regular election in 5 years. Then there is reservation for backward classes, SCs, STs. There is reservation for women. There is establishment of State Election Commission and Finance Commission, which helps in monetary benefits to the development. Right, students? So all this we have already studied. Now, let's also take into consideration some of the maps, okay? So, both the maps of history and geography must be done on the same page, right? That is, some of you ask these questions. Yes, you can do it on the same page. If that is what it was provided to you in the exam, just one particular page, you could have done it. Obviously, the questions were different. Once, I think they asked you Indian National Congress centers, and in the other there were industries you have to locate. So you could have done it on the same. That's completely fine. Okay? Or in maps, how much time you should have spent it? I would say not more than 5 to 6 minutes. That is more I have told you. So there's no point, students, you would have spent it that much of time. If you know, you have done it. If you don't know, then it's okay. I told you in pre-session also, don't spend much time on the questions you don't know. So if it is there on the same page, you could have done it on the same page. That depends how the board has given you the paper. Now students, let's also turn to our 13th question and understand. Explain the 3 factors that are crucial in deciding the outcome of politics. Students, exactly this I told you, that question will be coming on politics of social division. I actually said question can come on outcomes, okay? And here it has come. So what is politics of social division? Now students, it's very simple. It's a 3 marker. You could have written politics of social division is where the society is divided or it is politicized on the basis of sometimes of ethnic issues or religion issues, and the government or the political parties misuse that for their own advantage. This is simple politics of social division. It happens in India, it happens in Sri Lanka, etc. Right? One community is over other community. That is mainly the majority communities over the minority community. Now, what are the 3 factors? First factor you could have written is people perception. Sometimes people have a perception of a singular being, that no, this is my community, I come from this religion and I am right. Sometimes people have multiple identities, that this is my religion, this is my caste, but I am an Indian. So there are multiple religions attached to you, right? So you should always try to accommodate these different identities. This brings us to the second point, which is role of community culture. In the community, you should always have accommodation. This is given as it is in your NCERT, these 3 points. I pointed these 3 points in the pre-session. Remember that do the outcomes of social division, and it has come. So according, role of community center you say. Now, what happened is accommodation is done by the community, and the third is role of political parties and government. You could have explained that how government tries to actually promote over one another sometimes, which leads to not creation of accommodation. It creates disturbances, but government should not do. For a good democracy, you should always accommodate, right? So these 3 points if you have written, or something nearby, something to accommodation, or something not to diversity, then this would solve your purpose and you have got 3 marks completely, right? So you don't have to worry. Now let's turn to another question. So there aren't any very difficult question if you see. How is the issue of sustainability important for development? Okay, explain with example. Now sustainability is something which is very important. Remember in pre-session I told you that there are certain boxes, okay, in the NCERT, and you should never miss on the boxes. And here comes a question, because in the box only the sustainability was mentioned in your resources chapter of geography, the first chapter. From here the question has come of 3 marks. So there is sustainability is important. Why? To avoid ecological disobedience, to avoid depletion of resources, to avoid environmental pollution, to avoid any stagnation or problems for future programs and generation. If these 3 things you have explained, defining sustainability, you have solved the purpose. और आपको डरने का जरूरत नहीं है. अगर इसके आसपास भी आपने कुछ लिखा है, what is sustainability थोड़ा समझाया है, नहीं भी समझाया, सीधे पॉइंट्स पर आए हैं, तो आपको 3 नंबर मिल जाएंगे. It's easy to get number question, right? Now there are some questions, students, which are coming that one student is asking that instead of people perception, I stated as people's view. Of course, you'll be granted marks. There is no problem at all, Arvind. It is like you have got marks. Think you have won this question and you have got good marks in that. You will get marks. This is just change of terminology and nothing else. Now, let's turn to some other question as well and see what is the So distinguish the service conditions of organized and unorganized sector, right? अब ये कैसे करना है ऑर्गेनाइज्ड और अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड सेक्टर को? स्टूडेंट्स, ऑर्गेनाइज्ड सेक्टर जो है वहाँ पे सर्विस कंडीशंस बहुत अच्छी होती हैं, वर्क फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी होती है और आपको पीएफ वर्क सिक्योरिटी दिया जाता है. अगर अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड सेक्टर में ये सब नहीं दिया जाता है. दिस इज जस्ट द ऑपोजिट. So basically these little question has come, I think, which you can solve. Let's focus on something more important and questions where you can easily gain marks, right? Let's talk about the question on 5 marker. Let's take a 5 marker this time. Define the explosive condition of prevailing in Balkan after 1871. Student, Balkan region is the present sea. If you see, it is the region of Romania, Greece, Macedonia. You could have easily said that here there were ethical diversity. So it has always been a very sentimental issue for them. Ottoman Empire was ruling there. But after the disintegration of Ottoman Empire, which happened because of nationalization, what has happened? The people have become free and they have done the nationalism because of the use of history. But here also power rivalry happened between the Western powers and the Russian powers. They also played their tactical game. If this you have written, it has solved the purpose. Explain the Balkan issue. Then another question, if we take something important, is how did non-cooperation movement started? It's very simple, student, with the participation of middle class people. Lot of people in cities like Sholapur, Dharsana, Satara, Mumbai, Calcutta, people were there all around and they were participating. Women, students, Muslims, housewives, all of them participated except the Zamindars, right? Remember that. They were participating, and on economic impact was that Britishers started suffering because of that, right? They were suffering. Why? Because none of their goods were getting sold. All was getting disbanded. People were burning their shops, their liquor shop, etc. So economically, Britishers were suffering. Yes, they were. Now, students, let's turn to another interesting 5 marker. They have asked very simple question, again a general question from geography, that what are the institutional technological reforms? Very simple, students. You could have written issues like Green Revolution, okay, White Revolution, coming off lot of you can say milk product, then use of tractors, banking system, easy availability of loans, hybrid varieties, abolition of zamindari system. All these little things would have fetched you marks for sure. Now let's turn to something more interesting, and let's say any difficult question if you guys would have found. The question were the 5 major functions of political parties, and I told you this question would come. And there it is. Functions of political party, it is to form the government, to fight elections, to create public awareness, public opinions. Okay, so all of that. Also, it creates a sense of citizenship in you, right? It acts as an opposition also. So these 4-5 points would have fetched a little more than that if you have written some other functions depending on your NCERT. This will fetch you marks 100%, 5 out of 5. Now, another very interesting question was asked students. Some of the students have asked this, that I told you in the pre-session, I told that democracy stands for superior to any other form of government in promoting dignity. I told you dignity, freedom, justice, equality are the answers to democracy, and here it has come. An important 5-mark question. Again, the prediction is going right. So here it is. So we can write in this question, yes, India provides for 6 fundamental rights. There is right to dignity according to Article 21. If you have not mentioned that also, it's completely fine, right? It's completely okay. Then availability of equality, political legal rights, giving accommodation to minorities, all these points if you can include, then it makes a good answer. If you've written fundamental rights to a length, it's completely fine. Don't worry. Okay. Okay, right. Now, let's turn to the last question of this time, that how do you feel that impact of globalization is happening on our daily life? This is a very basic question, students, that from daily life, let's say from the MNCs coming in our city. So we are getting job opportunities, there is employment creation, lot of goods are getting produced, international market is developing, we can listen to a lot of Western music, eat a lot of food all around the world, right, staying in the city that you are staying. So all these important things, changes in technology, agriculture, economy, you could have explained briefly, 5-6 points telling the how globalization is impacted. Pre-session I told you globalization is important, they can ask question, and here it comes. Right. Now, okay, this last question I would like to take, because this is a question given by a students that is saying that what is something difficult on agriculture. Now, Arvind, I have already mentioned this while I was explaining. I'll just take your query in a few seconds. No, it is not difficult. You got confused because of institutional and technological. Students, institutional and technological, if you have not differently written, still you will get marks. Believe me, don't worry. Okay? Technological, you can, as I told you before also, there are new tractors coming in, new hybrid seeds, green revolution, white revolution you could have written. Institutional, basic institutional changes done during time of Nehru. You could have written abolition of zamindari system, land rights given to people. All these things would have given the answer. Don't worry, Arvind, if you have not written it separately, somehow written it, you will get 4.5 marks. So now students, this is how it was. This is our basic idea about our paper which we have solved. I hope you have understood all of it, and this also calls an end to this session. Still students, feel free to ask anything further. If there is, you can contact me. I am taking social science videos here at Toppr. Any problem, anytime, feel free to do that. Write to us, and I'm sure you will score good marks. I predict most of the people can score between 65 to 70, and people who have rocked the paper, they can actually score plus 70. Yes, you can actually, near to 73, 75. So this again calls an end to the session. Now, thank you so much, and stay tuned at Toppr. Keep watching us.